let me describe a situation that I suspect is going to feel very familiar. You've had a few good conversations with potential clients. One of them said they were definitely interested and would get back to you after the school holidays, maybe. One of them asked you to send over some information, and you did. But you're not sure if they ever replied. One of them you spoke to at a networking event. You have their name written on a piece of paper somewhere, or maybe it's a business card, possibly in the pocket of a jacket you haven't worn since. And there's a fourth person who you're fairly sure is ready to buy, but you haven't followed up with because you keep meaning to, and somehow a week has turned into 3. All 4 of these people are leads. All 4 of them are at completely different stages. And right now, all 4 of them live exclusively inside your head, where they are slowly getting tangled up with each other and with everything else that you're trying to hold on to at once. This is what happens when you don't have a system. Not because you're disorganized, because nobody told you what system to have. So either you've got nothing, or you've got a spreadsheet with 47 columns that you built in an enthusiastic moment and have never opened since. Or maybe you signed up for a CRM tool that sends you daily emails about your pipeline health and you feel vaguely guilty every time you see them. All of that stops today. Hey up, I'm Leigh. And this is Basic AF. Let's get into it. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. It sounds corporate and complicated because it was invented by and for large-scale organizations with hundreds, thousands of leads moving through complex multi-stage processes. You are not that. You do not need that. What you need is a simple, honest answer to 3 questions at any given moment. Who am I talking to? Where are they in the process? And what do I need to do next? That's it. That's the whole job of a CRM at your stage. The reason people overcomplicate this is the same reason they overcomplicate most things at the startup stage of business. They look at what established businesses are doing and try to replicate it before they have the volume or the complexity to justify it. A business with 200 leads in various stages of a 6-month sales cycle needs Salesforce. A business with 12 leads and a 1-conversation sales process needs a Google Sheet and a weekly 10-minute check-in with themselves. The other problem, and this is equally common, is keeping everything in your head, which works, briefly, when you have 2 or 3 leads. It stops working the moment you have 5. And it completely breaks down if life gets busy, because your brain is not a database, and it was not designed to reliably surface, follow up with the person who said maybe in 6 weeks at the exact right moment 6 weeks later. Something falls through the cracks. And the thing about a lead that falls through the cracks is that you almost never know it happened. They just quietly go somewhere else. Let's get back to Dan. We've been following Dan for a few weeks now. Former IT project manager, freelance systems consultant, found his room, figured out how to talk about his offer, has 2 paying clients and a handful of warm leads from his community activity and his outreach. Dan is managing all of this in his head. He knows he has 2 current clients. That's fine. He can hold 2 things. But the leads are a little bit murkier. There's someone from his Slack community who asked a lot of questions and then went quiet. There's a former colleague he told about his work who said, "Actually, I might know someone." And then nothing further. There's someone who booked a discovery call. The call went well. Dan sent the follow-up email, and now he's not sure if he should follow up on the follow-up, or if that would be too much. And there's someone who flat out said, "Yes, I want to do this. Just need to sort the budget. Come back to you in a month," which was 6 weeks ago. Dan is thinking about all these people irregularly and anxiously, in no particular order, at unpredictable moments. He thought about the budget person in the shower on Tuesday. He remembered the Slack person while he was making dinner and then forgot about it again. The former colleague he hasn't thought about in 2 weeks. None of this is Dan being bad at his job. Dan is good at his job. Dan is just trying to hold too many things in a system, his memory, that wasn't built for this. Last week, Dan missed out on a follow-up window. The person who'd said, yes, I just need to sort the budget, signed with someone else. Dan found out through a mutual contact. He'll never know if a well-timed follow-up would have changed that, but a well-timed follow-up would have been possible if he'd written the date down somewhere. And you'd think Dan would be good at this, because systems are his whole thing, right? Let's talk about what to actually track and why each thing matters. The goal of your CRM, whether it is a spreadsheet, a Notion page, or a piece of paper on your desk, is to answer 3 questions at a glance. Who, where, and what next? Everything you track should serve one of the 3 questions. Everything that doesn't serve one of them doesn't belong in your system. So the who, the basics. Name, how you know them or where they came from. Contact details. Email is usually enough. That's it for the whole column. You don't need their company size, their LinkedIn URL, their birthday, or any of the other fields that CRM software loves to suggest to you. Name, source, email. Why does the source matter? Knowing where a lead comes from tells you what's working. If 6 of your last 8 leads came from your Slack community and 2 came from cold outreach, that's useful information for where to spend your time. You don't need a complicated attribution model. Just Slack community, or warm referral from James, or networking event, whatever tag you want to put on it. Now the where, the stage. This is a column, the one people most often get wrong by either ignoring it entirely or making it too complicated. Your stages at this point in your business are simple. A lead is in one of 5 places. New, you've had an initial contact or conversation. You know they might be relevant. Nothing further has happened yet. Warm, you've had a real conversation. There's genuine interest. They haven't said yes or no yet. Waiting, you're waiting on something from them. Their budget to come through, a decision to be made, the school holidays to end. They've given you a time frame and you're holding space. Proposal sent, you've made a specific offer or sent specific information, you're waiting for a response. And closed, either won, they became a client, or lost, they went elsewhere or it wasn't right. Keep both in your system. Closed loss is not a failure. It's data. That's information. 5 stages. That's the whole pipeline. You don't need nurturing and qualified and discovery and negotiation and 12 other stages that make sense for a corporate sales team, but make no sense for you. So what's next? The action and the date. The single most important thing in your CRM is not the stage. It's the next action and the date by which it needs to happen. Follow up is not a next action. Send follow-up email asking if budget is confirmed with a date attached is a next action. Every lead in your system should have one to next action and a date. Not a list of possible things you could do. One concrete thing, one date. When you do that thing, you update the entry with a new next action and the new date. This is what makes the system actually work. Without a date, follow-up with Dan's former colleague lives in your head as a vague intention. With a date, it becomes a thing that either gets done on that date or gets consciously rescheduled. The cracks close. The weekly 10 minutes. A CRM only works if you look at it. And you'll only look at it consistently if looking at it is defined, short, regular habit. Not a big monthly review that feels like homework. 10 minutes once a week, same time, same day if possible. You open your system, you look at everything in the warm, waiting and proposal sent stages. You check, is there anything where the next action date has passed? Do those first. Is there anything coming up this week? Note it. Is anyone stuck in a stage longer than is making sense? Either move them or make a conscious decision, close them as a lost and move on. That's the whole review. 10 minutes. The system stays current, nothing falls through the cracks, and you are no longer managing your pipeline from the shower. What you don't need is HubSpot. You don't need Salesforce. You don't need Pipedrive or Monday or any of the other tools that will cheerfully charge you a £40 a month to do something a Google Sheet does perfectly well at this stage. You don't need automations. You don't need an email sequence triggered by a pipeline stage. You don't need lead scoring. You don't need any of it yet. You need a list of people, where they are, and what you're doing next. Put that in whatever format you will actually open and update. For most people at this stage, that's a spreadsheet. For some, it's a Notion table. For a small number of people, it's genuinely a physical notebook, and that is also fine, as long as you have the weekly review habit. The best CRM is the one you actually use. Let's get back to Dan. Dan built his system on a Sunday afternoon. 1 Google Sheet, 5 columns. Name, source, stage, next action, and date. He populated it from memory. 12 people. Took him about 20 minutes. Some of the dates he had to estimate. Budget person he marked as closed and lost, which felt uncomfortable but also clarifying. He hadn't lost that lead because he was bad at his job. He lost it because he didn't have a system. The former colleague he marked as warm with the next action of email to follow up, and a date the following Tuesday. The Tuesday email led to a conversation. The conversation led to an introduction. The introduction became a client 4 weeks later. That is not a miracle. That is what happens when you follow up at the right time because you wrote the date down. So what's your task for this week? Just one thing. Build your system. It doesn't have to be a spreadsheet. It doesn't have to be digital. It just has to have 5 things. Who, where they came from, what stage they're at, what happens next, and when. Populate it from memory. Everyone you've spoken to in the last 3 months who is a potential client. Don't overthink the stages. Mark anything clearly dead as closed, lost, so you're not carrying it around. Set a date for every next action. Then put a reoccurring 10-minute block into your calendar, once a week, to review it. The worksheets that will walk you through this process and building it from scratch are available in the BBS community. And when your system is built, even if it has 3 entries and 2 of them are marked as closed lost, come and tell us, because I have a system is a different state of being than I'm managing this in my head. And that shift is worth naming out loud. There's a link in the show notes. Next week, we are talking about email that doesn't drain you. Specifically, how to stay in touch with your list or your community in a way that's sustainable and actually useful, rather than building an elaborate content calendar that you will abandon by week 3. See you there.